Everyone thinks power is loud. But the real control never makes noise. Silence is where control begins. You don't control people, you control the direction. This isn't one room, it's happening everywhere. Because the real power is the one you never see. The louder they get, the more control they lose. Pressure doesn't shout, it forces reactions. Control one system, and everything connects. The smallest move creates the trap. Can trap the entire room. Control breaks, then resets. This is where power decides no force, just control. When systems break, real power shows itself. The one who stays calm, controls everything. This isn't control, it's a system. One moment decides everything. And suddenly, it's over. No force, just design. Control the system and everything follows. You don't control people, you control the system. Power is never where people think it is. They chase noise, they chase dominance, they chase control through force. But in the rooms where outcomes shape the world, the real power does not compete, it observes. And then it takes over without resistance. These rooms are built for power. Money, intelligence, strategy, everything is already inside. But something else exists here, something invisible, a force that decides who bends and who controls the direction. And most people inside the room never even see it happening. People believe data wins negotiations. The belief that raw numbers create power is often an illusion. But in today's world, everyone has the same information, the same reports, the same projections. So if everyone knows everything, why do only a few control the outcome? Loudness is not strength. It is merely a reveal of exposure. It is exposure. Every word reveals intention. Every reaction reveals pressure. Amateurs speak to dominate. But every second they speak, they give away control. Silence is not weakness. It is psychological pressure in its purest form. It is pressure in its purest form. Because the human mind cannot tolerate uncertainty. It fills the gap, it guesses, it leaks. And the first person who tries to escape that silence loses more than they realize. Watch carefully, the pressure is building. No one forced it, no one created conflict. And yet, the room is collapsing into exposure. Because when control is invisible, people begin to reveal themselves. Influence does not arrive all at once. It builds layer by layer. A pause here, a move there, a perfectly timed action. And suddenly, the entire structure of the room begins to shift. Now, something fundamental has changed within the room. The same people, the same negotiation, but a different center of gravity. Without demanding attention, without forcing authority, he has become the axis of the room. And from this moment forward, everything begins to move around him. This is the moment control becomes visible, but still not understood. No one announced it, no one agreed to it. And yet, the room has already shifted. Because power is not declared, it is recognized unconsciously. And once that recognition happens, resistance begins to fade. He does not interrupt, he does not argue, he does not force direction. Instead, he creates space, and inside that space, others begin to expose themselves. Because when someone controls the tempo, everyone else begins to move inside their rhythm. Now the room begins to accelerate rapidly as the pressure builds. People speak faster, they reveal priorities. They defend positions too early, every reaction becomes data. Every word becomes leverage, and the one who says the least collects the most. This is where real power is built. Not through action, but through observation. Every person in the room is revealing something. Fear, urgency, hidden limits. And piece by piece, a complete map begins to form. When he finally speaks, everything changes. Because now, his words carry weight, not from volume, but from restraint. And in that moment, even a simple statement begins to redirect the entire discussion. His presence is now the only signal that matters. Then he stops midway. No explanation, no closure, and suddenly, like the pressure returns. Because unfinished thoughts are dangerous. They force others to complete them. And in doing so, they reveal even more. Now the room is fully inside his structure. They believe they are pushing forward. They believe they are negotiating. But every move they make is being guided. Because once the frame is controlled, every action inside it becomes predictable. And then he gives something, small. Deliberate, it looks like movement. To the amateurs, it feels like significant progress is being made. But in reality, it is a test. The reaction is immediate, faster than expected. Because people respond to movement with more movement. They mirror it. They escalate it. And without realizing, they begin to give more than they planned. The trap is now set, and the room is moving exactly where he wants. Now it is clear the direction has been decided. Not through force, not through dominance, but through design. Every step led here, every reaction shaped this outcome. And the most powerful move of all and was never visible. The invisible structure of the room is tightening around them. No one notices the shift, but everyone feels it. Options are narrowing. Movement is becoming predictable. And the space for resistance is quietly disappearing. Time is no longer neutral. It is being controlled. When one side moves slower, the other begins to rush. And in that rush, mistakes appear. Because tempo is one of the most powerful forms of influence. Raw emotion is rising as the pressure becomes unbearable. Control is slipping, but only for some. Because imbalance is not an accident, it is a signal. And the moment one side becomes emotional, they stop seeing the full picture. then a single move, small, precise, perfectly timed, and instantly the chaos resets. Because true influence does not fight noise, it replaces it. The room is now fully silent, awaiting the final word. The frame has changed. What mattered before no longer matters now. Because whoever defines the frame defines the outcome. And once people accept that frame, they begin negotiating inside it. The outcome is already etched into the new structure of the room. Now something deeper is happening. The room is no longer independent. It is reacting, waiting, adjusting. Because once dependence forms, control becomes effortless. Every person in the room is now looking for their next cue. Another move, more deliberate than the first. This is no longer testing, this is positioning. Because now, every concession is shaping the final structure, and every response pulls the room deeper into alignment. This is the point of no return, where the outcome is no longer uncertain, where resistance becomes impractical, because the path forward has already been built. And stepping away now would cost more than continuing. The final pieces are falling into place, exactly as designed. And just like that, it is done. No battle. No visible domination, only structure, carefully designed from the beginning. Because the highest level of power does not force outcomes. The highest level of power makes every outcome inevitable. This is where everything slows down. Not because the process is uncertain, but because the weight of the outcome is being felt. Every detail now matters, every line carries consequence. And yet, the direction has already been decided. A final doubt appears, a small hesitation, the last instinct to resist. But hesitation at this stage is not power. It is a reaction to something already in motion. And reactions rarely change outcomes. No words are needed now. The pressure speaks for itself. Because silence at the right moment is heavier than any argument. It forces decision, it demands resolution, and it leaves no space for escape. And then it breaks, not with conflict, but with acceptance. The decision is made, not because it was forced, but because every path now leads here. The room is now unified by the stroke of a pen. Momentum takes over, one decision triggers another. Agreement becomes inevitable, because once the first move is made, the rest follow naturally. And what looked like negotiation was actually direction. Every person in the room is now moving in sync with the new reality. Now it becomes visible, not the process, but the result. The room has shifted. The outcome is locked. And the true center of control in this room has never been more clear. The silence is absolute as the power is finally understood. He leaves the room the same way he entered, without noise, without display, because true power does not celebrate itself. It does not need recognition. It simply moves, and the world adjusts around it. This was not a victory, it was a demonstration. A glimpse into a system most people never understand. Because influence at this level is not a skill, it is an architecture. And this, as we have seen today, is only the beginning. What you saw was only the surface. Because influence does not exist in one room. It exists everywhere, across cities, across systems, across decisions happening at the same time. And behind all of it, a deeper war is always in motion. There is a system most people never see, not written, not documented, but always present, a system that controls perception. Because whoever controls perception, they control the invisible battlefield, controls reality itself and every move that follows. Reality inside a negotiation is not fixed. It is shaped, framed, adjusted in real time. What seems strong can be made to feel weak, and what appears uncertain can become unchallengeable. The one who controls the story controls the outcome, not by force, but by definition. Because once a narrative is accepted, every decision begins to follow it. And breaking that narrative becomes almost impossible. Status is not fixed, it is perceived, and perception can be altered. Even the strongest position can weaken if the room stops believing in it. Because influence is not about what is true. It is about what is accepted. Emotion spreads faster than logic. It moves silently from one person to another. And the one who controls emotion controls the atmosphere. Because once the room feels a certain way, it begins to think that way. Disruption, when controlled, is powerful. It breaks patterns, it resets expectations. And in that moment of confusion, new influence can be inserted, because uncertainty that creates opportunity. The frame has changed again, and with it, the entire meaning of the negotiation. What was important before no longer holds the same weight, because when the frame moves, everything inside it moves with it. A single idea you repeated carefully becomes an anchor. It stabilizes perception. It defines direction, and once it takes hold, every thought begins to orbit around it. Now the control is deeper, not just in actions, but in thinking itself. Because once perception is shaped, decisions no longer need to be forced. They happen naturally, inside the designed reality. The deepest level of influence is the one no one notices. It happens below awareness, in small movements, in subtle reactions. And when people begin to mirror each other, control has already begun. Patterns create comfort, and comfort creates acceptance. When a pattern is installed, people stop questioning. They follow, they align. And without realizing it, they begin to move exactly as expected. Attention is limited, and wherever attention goes, control follows. By narrowing focus, you reshape priority. And when priorities shift, so do decisions. Trust is built quietly, not through claims, but through consistency. When credibility forms, resistance lowers. And once resistance lowers, influence flows freely. Sometimes showing less strength creates more control. Because vulnerability disarms, it lowers defenses. And when defenses drop, access increases. But this is not weakness, it is precision. Power is not always real. Sometimes it is projected. And when perception shifts, so does reality inside the room. Because people respond to what they believe is true. And once again, silence returns, but this time it is heavier, because now the room understands what silence means. It is not absence, it is control waiting to be used. Now the system is complete, not just action, not just decisions, but perception itself has been shaped. The room is no longer independent. It is aligned. And when alignment reaches this level, control becomes invisible and absolute. The field of possibilities is shrinking, not by force, but by design. Options are being reduced. Focus is being tightened, and without realizing it, the room is moving toward a single path. Choice can be an illusion. When options are controlled, decisions become predictable, because the path may look open, but the destination is already fixed. And when people believe they are choosing, they rarely question where they are being led. Time creates pressure, and pressure creates fatigue. As energy drops, resistance weakens, decisions become faster. Less precise and easier to guide. This is the moment to move, not too early, not too late, perfectly timed, because when the room is ready, even the smallest push can shift everything. Dependence has formed. The room no longer moves independently. It reacts, it waits, it adjusts, because once guidance becomes expected, control becomes automatic. The frame is finalized. Everything is now seen through a single lens, and when the frame is fixed, debate disappears, because there is nothing left to argue, only movement within the structure. This is the irreversible moment where stepping back is no longer an option, because the cost of reversal is now higher than the cost of agreement. And when that happens, the outcome is locked. No pressure was applied, no dominance was shown, and yet control is complete because the most powerful influence does not feel like control. It feels like the natural next step. Now the truth becomes clear. This was never a negotiation. It was a system, a structure, a carefully designed path. And every person in the room was moving inside it, without ever realizing who created it. Everything is aligned, not perfectly, but enough, because perfection is not required, only direction, and the direction has already been secured. There is always one last moment, a final instinct to resist, a question that almost forms but never fully arrives. Because by now, the system is stronger than the individual, and resistance fades before it can take shape. Silence returns, but this time, it is absolute. No one wants to break it. No one wants to disrupt the flow, because now everyone feels it. The decision has already been made. And then it happens. The final break. Not with force, but with acceptance. Because once alignment reaches this level, action becomes automatic. One move triggers another, one decision confirms the next, and suddenly, everything is locked, because momentum is the final layer of control. Now it is visible, not the process, but the result. The room has changed, the outcome is fixed, and the one who shaped it never needed to prove it. But this is not isolated. This is happening everywhere, at every level, in every system, because influence is not local, it is global. You have seen how control is built, layer by layer, silently, precisely. But what happens when that control is challenged? When the system begins to break? When influence meets resistance? Every system eventually faces pressure. No matter how precise, how controlled, how perfect it appears, there is always a point where stability begins to fracture. And when that happens, control is no longer guaranteed. It must be defended. It begins with a disruption, small but unexpected, a break in rhythm, a refusal to follow the pattern. And in that moment, the system is tested. Because control depends on predictability, and unpredictability changes everything. Resistance has appeared, not organized, not coordinated, but real. Because once one person steps outside the system, others begin to question it. And doubt is the first threat to control. The structure begins to weaken, not all at once, but in fragments. Order turns into noise, clarity turns into confusion, and the system that once guided everything starts to lose its grip. Control does not panic, it recalibrates. The first response is not force, it is silence. A reset attempt, a signal to restore order. But this time, the response is weaker. Something is different. The silence does not work the same way. The room no longer responds instantly. Because once control is questioned, it loses its automatic power. And it must be rebuilt. A new force enters the space, an attempt to take control. To replace the existing structure. Because in chaos, power does not disappear. It shifts, and whoever moves fastest can redefine the system. Now there are two centers, two structures, two competing realities, and the room cannot hold both. Why? Because influence requires alignment. And division creates instability. Now there are two centers, two structures, two competing realities, and the room cannot hold both. The system is collapsing, emotion takes over, logic fades, structure disappears, and in this moment, because once emotion dominates, control is lost. And those who can see it can still regain control. Chaos is never truly random. Even in disorder, patterns exist. Hidden beneath noise, repeating signals begin to appear. And the one who can see those patterns can still understand the system. Even as it breaks. Every disruption has a source, a center of resistance. A point where control is being challenged. And once that point is identified, the entire conflict becomes clearer. Because influence is always anchored somewhere. Control does not return all at once. It begins with a single move. a moment that breaks momentum, because even chaos high can be redirected. If the timing is exact, hui, attention becomes the battlefield. Whoever controls it controls the next move, hui. And the one who provides it that begins to rebuild influence, hai. Because even in chaos, people need direction, hui. Attention becomes the battlefield. Whoever controls it controls the next move, hui. Now the conflict is direct. Two strategies colliding, hui. One driven by force, the other by control, hui. And in this moment, the room is deciding, hui, which one will dominate, hai. The pressure is peaking. Emotion is overwhelming logic. Clarity is disappearing, hui. And when the system reaches this state, it becomes fragile, hui. Because too much pressure can break everything, hui. The structure is gone, and without structure, alignment collapses, hui. And then he steps back, not in defeat, but in strategy, hui. Because sometimes control is regained, hui. By removing yourself from the fight, hui. A vacuum forms. Without a center, the room loses structure, hui. And even the challenger cannot fully replace it, hui. It is about holding the system together, hui. And the room will continue to move inside the structure he created, hui. The vacuum is growing, the structure is gone, hui. And without it, even power begins to scatter, hui. And without structure, alignment collapses, hey. Force is being applied, but it is not working because dominance without structure creates resistance, hui. And resistance multiplies quickly, hai. Now the room is no longer following, it is pushing back, hui. Dominance without structure creates resistance, and resistance multiplies quickly. Hui. The fracture is complete. There is no single direction anymore, only competing intentions, hui. Competing voices, competing realities, hui. Now, he returns, not to fight the chaos, but to reshape it, because rebuilding control requires timing, hui. And this is the moment, hui. Now, he returns, not to fight the chaos, but to reshape it, because rebuilding control, because rebuilding control and requires timing, and this is the moment, hui. Clarity cuts through chaos. A single idea, strong enough, can reset everything, hui. Because when people are lost, they search for direction, hui. And the one who provides it becomes the center again, hui. Clarity cuts through chaos. A single idea, strong enough, can reset everything, hui. Control is returning, not completely, but enough, hui. Because influence does not need perfection, only momentum, hui. And momentum is shifting back, hui. Control is returning, not completely, but enough. Momentum is shifting back, hui. Now it comes down to this: two forces, two approaches, two systems of control, hui. And the room is watching, because this moment will decide everything, hui. Now it comes down to this: two forces, two approaches, two systems of control, hui. And the room is watching, because this moment will decide everything, hui. And with one move, the direction is decided not through force, but through clarity, hui. Because in the end, the strongest system is not the loudest, hui. It is the one that holds under pressure, hui. And with one move, the direction is decided. It is the one that holds under pressure, hui. This is the final pressure field. No noise, no distraction, only focus, hui. Because everything has led here. And in this moment, there is no room for uncertainty, where this is the final pressure field. No noise, no distraction, only focus, hui. Everything has led here. And in this moment, there is no room for uncertainty, hui. It is small, almost invisible, but it is enough, a hesitation, a fracture in certainty, hui. And in high-stakes environments, even the smallest crack can collapse everything, hui. It is small, almost invisible, but it is enough, a hesitation, hey. A fracture in certainty, and in high-stakes environments, even the smallest crack can collapse everything, hui. Control returns, not slowly, but instantly, because once doubt enters one side, hui. Certainty shifts to the other, hui. And from that point forward, the outcome becomes inevitable, hai. Control returns, not slowly, but instantly. Once doubt enters one side, certainty shifts to the other, chaos and control, and it knows which one it trusts, hui. Alignment spreads again, faster than before, because now, the room has experienced both systems, hui. There is no defeat, only acceptance. Because in this level of influence, power is not taken, it is recognized. And once it is recognized, it no longer needs to prove itself. There is no defeat, only acceptance. Power is not taken, it is recognized. He leaves again without noise, without confirmation, because the outcome speaks for itself. And the room will continue to move. He leaves again without noise, outcome speaks for itself. The room moves inside his structure. Control was tested, it was challenged, and it survived, but this is not the end. Because true power does not exist in a single moment. It expands. It evolves, and in the next phase, it becomes something far greater. Order turns into noise. Clarity turns into confusion. Tension splitting the room into multiple factions. And when this happens, control does not just weaken, it disappears. But in the middle of collapse, there is still clarity. Because chaos reveals truth. It exposes weaknesses, it shows where structure failed. And for those who can see it, it creates opportunity. Chaos reveals truth, it exposes weaknesses, it shows where structure failed. Chaos and control. And it knows which one it trusts. Chaos and control. And it knows which one it trusts. The system is rebuilt, but not the same as before. Stronger, more stable. Because now it has been tested, and anything that survives chaos, becomes harder to break. The system is rebuilt, stronger, more stable, because now it has been tested. There is no defeat, only acceptance, because in this level of influence, power is not taken, it is recognized. And once it is recognized, it no longer needs to prove itself. There is no defeat, only acceptance. Power is not taken, it is recognized. He leaves again without noise, without confirmation. Because the outcome speaks for itself. And the room will continue to move inside the structure he created. He leaves again without noise, outcome speaks for itself. The room moves inside his structure. Control was tested, it was challenged, and it survived. But this is not the end. Because true power does not exist in a single moment. It expands. It evolves. And in the next phase, it becomes something far greater. A precise interruption that breaks the momentum of the entire room. Competing voices defining two distinct and competing realities. Alignment spreads again as the room experiences both systems. Chaos and control. And the room knows which one it trusts. The system is rebuilt, and it is stronger than ever before. There is no defeat, only acceptance. In this level of influence, power is not taken, it is recognized by those within the system. And once it is recognized, it no longer needs to prove itself. Atmosphere calm, but heavy with the weight of control. He leaves again, without noise and without further confirmation. Because the outcome of this move speaks for itself. The room will continue to move inside the structure he created. Control established speaks for itself, moving inside his structure. Control was tested, it was challenged, and it survived. Because true power does not exist in a single moment. It expands, it evolves into something far greater. And in the next phase, it becomes something far greater. Power was never confined to one room. Power was always something larger. The world is always connected. What you see as isolated events are not isolated at all. They are linked, structured. Because influence operates beyond what is visible, operates beyond what is visible. Every global system has layers, and every layer has influence. And every influence feeds into something greater. Because true control is not about a single moment. It is about the entire network. The highest level of power is invisible. It does not need recognition. It does not need validation, because its effect is everywhere, even when its presence is not. This is the architecture, not simple, not linear, but layered. Systems are adaptive and evolving, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Reality is not fixed. Reality is how it is perceived, and perception can be shaped, because what people believe becomes what they act on, and that becomes reality. Time is control. Speed is influence. The one who controls tempo controls pressure, and the one who controls pressure controls decisions. When systems align, control becomes exponential. because influence is no longer isolated. It spreads, multiplies, and reinforces itself at every level. Now the truth becomes visible. Power was never about individuals. It was never about dominance in a single moment. It was always about systems. Because once a system is shaped, every outcome begins to follow it. The highest level of control requires the least effort. Because once influence becomes embedded, it no longer needs constant action. It runs, it adapts, it continues. The system runs on its own. Every system has layers, and control exists at each level. Surface decisions, hidden structures, deep mechanisms, and the one who understands all layers, they control the entire system. Distance no longer matters. Time no longer separates. Because influence at this level connects everything. And when everything is connected, the most powerful force is the one you cannot see. It does not announce itself. It does not demand attention, because its presence is already everywhere. At this level, reality itself becomes flexible, because perception defines action, and action defines outcome. So the one who shapes perception shapes everything that follows. The system is stable, not because it is perfect, but because it is controlled, tested, adapted, reinforced. And now it cannot be easily broken. Influence does not end, it evolves. It transfers, it spreads across time. Because once a system is created, it continues beyond the individual. Everything you have seen was connected. Every move, every moment, every shift, not random, but designed, building toward a final realization. And now you understand, this was never about control in the obvious sense. It was about structure, design, perception. Because the highest level of power is the one that never needs to prove itself. Control does not stay contained, it expands. From one system to another, from one decision to thousands. Because once influence reaches this level, it begins to multiply on its own. Every action creates another, every decision triggers the next. A cascade that cannot be easily stopped. Because when systems are aligned, movement becomes unstoppable. There are no boundaries now, no separation, only integration. Because the highest level of control connects everything, and once everything is connected, nothing operates independently. No one needs to be present anymore, because the system continues on its own. This is the final stage of influence, where control does not require visibility or even direct action. Everything is stable, not by chance, but by design. Because stability is the ultimate result of controlled systems, and once achieved, it becomes self-sustaining. Authority at this level does not need to act. It exists, it holds, it defines. Because once the system is controlled, authority becomes absolute. Time passes, but control remains. Because true influence is not temporary. It is sustained, layered, and designed to last beyond the moment. Now everything connects. Every moment, every system, every decision, all part of the same structure. Because this was never about control in isolation, but control at scale. And now you see the full picture, not fragments, not moments, but the entire system. Because those who understand it no longer react to the world, they shape it. And then everything becomes still, not because movement has stopped, but because it no longer needs to be forced. The system is complete, and it is operating exactly as designed. You may never see it directly, you may never recognize its presence, but it is there. In every decision, in every shift, in every outcome, because true influence does not need to be seen. The system breathes, it moves, it adapts, it evolves, not randomly, but with precision, because control at this level is alive. Now you understand, it was never about forcing people, never about visible power. It was about shaping the system that shapes everything else, because once the system is controlled, nothing else needs to be. This is the final state, where influence becomes invisible, where control becomes effortless, where outcomes are no longer uncertain, because everything is already aligned. And it does not end here, because influence leaves a legacy, a structure that continues. Long after the moment has passed, because once created, it becomes part of the system itself. From silence to chaos to control, every step, every move, every moment was connected. Nothing was accidental, everything was designed. Because in the end, those who try to control people will always face resistance. But those who understand the system never need to force anything, because when the system is yours, the outcome already is.